presentation, we will also discuss about the other dolls and other type of offerings that are involved. Basically, everything starts with prayers. So people pray to God for want of something or to satisfy the wish for their needs, and that's how prayer has come. And there are various types of offerings or various types of methods of offerings are being followed in various cultures and various regions, even in within Tamil Nadu. We don't have to discuss pan India level. In Tamil Nadu itself, there are so many different types of offerings and different types of practices that are being followed for offerings. One such offering is what we are going to discuss, and these are mostly like deals what they make with the god, or the promises what they make with the god in returning their gratitude for the grant of their wish. So the types of offerings are like basically dolls. They are terracotta dolls, and even in the terracotta dolls, there are various types of dolls that they offer. For example, the first image is baby doll. So these types of dolls involve both girl baby and boy baby. Only difference between the girl baby and boy baby is the crown that is, or the tiara is present in the head of the baby doll. So that is what gives the identity that it is a girl baby. Otherwise, it is just a normal head with the boy baby. And the second one is the bull doll. The bull doll is usually given as an offering for want of good agricultural produce, safety of their land, agricultural land, so good health of their cattle, and good health of any animal that helps them in agriculture or in harvesting, on such whatever their animal husbandry that is related to agriculture and farming. And baby dolls are offered for want of child. So anybody who is wanting for a child and they are praying to God for want of child, they would promise the God that after their wish is fulfilled, they will offer a baby doll to the temple. Or sometimes the offering is done even prior to the wish is getting fulfilled, making the promise affirmative that I already offered you, so you are entitled to give me the wish. So they even do such kind of prayer. And this image shows the house. It's a doll house, and usually these kind of dolls are presented for or offered for want of building a new house or buying a new house, or to solve any litigation that is already been going on in a particular property, or to get their ancestral property cleared of titles and cleared of litigations and all that. So for any issue that is related with their house or property, they would offer a house doll. And most commonly offered doll is the horse doll. So horse doll, it goes for, it does irrespective of the type of prayer. So it can be for child, it can be for good harvesting, it can be for good business, it can be for anything, good health. So they will offer horse doll in want of all their wish. And there are other few offerings also, like they will offer dolls of scorpion, dolls of snakes. Suppose those are very peculiar offerings, because somebody is being bitten by some poisonous insect or by some snakes or anything like that. So for them to get cured soon, so for the god to prevent them from not these kind of things happening again, so they will pray to god and they will offer these kind of dolls also. But this is not very common to be seen. Most common to be seen are horse dolls, baby dolls, and the bull dolls. They also offer the sickle sword. So sickle sword is also offered for the god. Basically, if we observe the offerings, so except these baby dolls and the house dolls and the other smaller dolls what we are speaking, the horse doll is one prominent offering, and the sickle sword is also another prominent offering, because they believe that horse is a vehicle for their gods and the gods will use it for riding on them, and sickle sword is a weapon for the god. So they will present the sickle sword so that the god protects them from evil deeds. When it comes to practicing of these culture, it is very it is like a practice which is conducted in very wide regions, from south of Coimbatore, south of Trichy, and the peripheral regions of Kumbakonam, Tanjavur, and Madurai. Even in a lot of city temples, these kind of functions are still happening. So these are not only in the rural temples. Now, even now in Madurai, there are so many areas where it has been very highly practiced until Ramanathapuram. So there are few temples in Ramanathapuram which are doing this, and down south till Tirunelveli, Thoothukudi, and Virudhunagar. In all those areas, it is still practiced. But the types of dolls, that the styles of dolls might vary, but because my research was limited only to areas of Chettinad, which includes Sivagangai and outskirts of Madurai. So we are going to discuss only dolls which are present in this area and not the other ones. There are slight variations in the styles and forms between the dolls that are present in Salem, outskirts of Salem, Coimbatore, outskirts of Tirunelveli, and all that. But we are going to focus on the dolls which are present in Sivagangai and outskirts of Madurai. And when we discuss about the mythology part, most of these dolls are offered to gods. They are called as INR or Karpasamy. And they also call them as Urkaval Devam or Yellai Sami. Urkaval Devam means the god who safeguards their village. And Yellai Sami means the god who protects their boundary. So that's why we will see the temples of these gods are always situated in the boundaries or peripheral parts of the village or the settlements. And the belief is that INR and Karpasamy, both of them are sons of Shiva, Lord Shiva. So they are all mythical characters. And there are also other gods who are worshipped and for whom these kind of offerings are made. Those are called in different names like Periyannan, Veerayan, Veeran, Madurai Veeran. There are so many other names, Chinnayan, like that. So those are historical characters. What people believe that they lived, they are like chieftains or small kings or warriors who had lived among people, and they have protected people from many evil deeds. They have fought for people and they have died. So they become god after death, and people started worshipping them. And for those kind of gods also, these kind of offerings are made. But mostly the offerings are made for INR and Karpasamy. In some places, offerings are made for female gods also, like Devi, Amman, Kali Amman, like that. But the offerings are not kept in the temple premises of those Devi's temple premises. It is again kept in the premises of the INR or Karpasamy temple that is nearby or in the surroundings. Because INR and Karpasamy are also considered as bodyguards of the other Devi deities. So that is the belief, mythological belief, what these people belonging to this region believe in. When it comes to the origin of the temple or origin of the deity or origin of their worship, there is a common story that is being told in all these regions. They say that a kumbham is a copper casket, so which is similar to something which is in the image. So a kumbham has arrived to their village in yesteryears, so long back. Nobody knows what was the time. So nobody were able to. All these were gathered from by talking, having a discussion with the elders in the village, and the stories that have been told from ages to ages, from their grandparents to the grandchildren. So it's like that. It's only the information that's been passed down to various ages. It's not any documented or written anywhere, or it is not been said anywhere. It's just knowledge that is being passed on. So the kumbham comes to the village through a river or a channel or a tributary or something like that. If the village has some kind of a water body, running water body, then they say that the kumbham has come from somewhere through the water body and had just reached the banks of this village. If the village does not have any such running water bodies, then they say that it just emerged from the lake or pond that is been existing in the village. So this is a very common story what most of the villages say. So it involves a kumbham that is coming to the village or emerging in the water body of the village, and somebody who goes and takes the kumbham and they are placing it somewhere, and suddenly one of the people from the village gets possessed by some positive energy or a good spirit or a spirit of the god, and they start to speak the speak the words of the god. So that is how the mythology starts, and they say or they instruct the people how to perform the offerings or how to perform festivals, how to worship and all that. And that's why many temples are placed near water bodies also. So these two images are, the first one is a temple in Pattamangalam. The main deity is Semam Tharum Ayyanar, Sevaga Perumal Ayyanar. So this has also been studied for our case. This is on the bank of a pond. You could see the pond in the background. And the second one is in a place called Palavangudi. That is also on the bank of a pond. Excuse me. So for the case, we have I have chosen 3 temples to study the dolls, and all the 3 temples happen to have the same deities of similar name. So basically, they are all Ayyanar. So first temple is Semam Tharum Ayyanar, who is the temple is situated in a place called Erumapatti in the outskirts of Madurai. And second one is Segit Ayyanar. Segit Ayyanar temple is placed in a place called Surakudi, that is in Sivagangai district. And Sri Sevaga Perumal Ayyanar, that is placed in a place called Pattamangalam, that is also in Sivagangai. And Karaimel Alagar Ayyanar is the temple whose horses were not studied for the research, but the horse that was studied for the making was done in this temple, but done by this temple potter who is in business for more than 50 years. The fourth name, if you see, it is mentioned as Karaimel Alagar. So they also have a common practice naming that, adding this kind of a title to the god, like Karaimel. Karai means bank. So they say that the god who is placed on the bank. So that bank may be a river bank or a bank of a pond or a bank of a lake or anything. And Karaimel Alagar, they assume that they are very handsome god. He's a very handsome god, and that's why that name Alagar has come. So Karaimel Alagar Ayyanar, the deity is Ayyanar, so they have added this title. Like that, they used to add this title for Karupasamy also. Karaimel Alagar Karupar. And in some places, they add titles like Sandana Karupar, Sambirani Karupar, like that, Sangli Karupar. So they have many titles and many titles to add in various region, according to the belief and according to the how they portray their god. So usually these doll making does not happen any time of the year. So that happens during the festive seasons, and festivals are considered or conducted for, again, want of something. So for a social reason, for the collective prayer or the collective need of the village, usually it will be want of rain, want of good harvest, want of good agricultural produce. So that's why the festivals are conducted. And if all the families have any kind of a personal prayer, personal pledge to offer, those dolls also will be offered only during the festive times. They don't do it like, suppose I want to do an offering and suddenly I want to do it next month. It can't be done. the offering can be done only along with the festival as a collective offering. So I have to wait till the next festive time so that I can make the doll and offer it to the temple. So doll making process for the festival starts with an activity called Pidiman Kuduttal. Sorry, Pidiman Kuduttal means the leader of the village or the panchayat, the head of the village, he comes to the pond or the lake where they are going to take the silt. So there is a ritual where he cuts the uh, silt from the ground, and he takes that and he put it in a basket and lifts it on the head of the potter who is going to make the doll. So this is the first activity. Once he starts, then the activity of collecting the silt starts, and then they make the dolls. The making process we will see in the later slides. Then the second major activity is Kantirapadu. Kantirapadu means this is the benchmark where it earmarks the end of the making process. So the dolls are completely made, completely finished, and the last thing what they do is painting the eyes. So after making some ritual pujas, they paint the eyes of the dolls, and that event they call as Kantirapadu. And then those dolls are brought to a place called Savukai. So the festival procession will start from a place called Savukai. Savukai is a place, is like a nodal point for any village in these areas. So where they have common gatherings, where they have panchayat meetings, where they have collective discussions for governance of the village, or if they have to announce any information to the public, it is all been done in Savukai. Apart from these activities, the Savukai is basically used for discussions. Usually we can go and find elder people sitting there and discussing some issues, or they're taking rest in the afternoons, children playing around. Savukai is usually a nodal point. So the procession will start from the Savukai only. All the dolls will be brought to that place and it will be assembled. It will be lined up there, ready for the procession. Then after doing a puja there from the Savukai, the dolls will be lifted and they will be taken as procession to the temple premises. And in the temple premises, the last activity, which is called Kayir Matram, that is, they are handing over the dolls to the temple premises. So that activity is done there with a small ritual. So these are the four major activities that are involved in the doll making process till presenting the dolls to the temples. So this is the dolls that are being made in a place called Surakudi. So the speciality about this temple is that the festival is being conducted every year in this temple, and at least 100 dolls are made every year, or 100 dolls are being offered to the temple. So they claim that it has never been less. It has never been less than 100. So it is always over 100 every year. Somehow or the other, the collective offering will be over 100. And only in this particular temple, it is mass produced. So the whole agreement to the potter is done, and for the whole making of the whole lot, and then they just start making it as a mass production. In some villages, it is not in mass scale. They don't produce huge number of dolls and present. In some villages, they present only one horse, so that they will make at a very huge scale, and that is called Rajagudari, that they will present it for every year. This they want to do it just as a practice ritual, because it is they don't want to let the ritual go, so they keep practicing it every year regularly, and they do one big statue and present it to the temple. This is how the festive procession takes place. The godsman who speaks the word of the god, he just starts the procession, and then the procession goes by lifting. They just lift the horses and take that in procession throughout the streets of the villages, and it is mandatory that it will go to all the streets, and then before it goes to the temple. And when it reaches the temple, it is placed and inside the temple or outside the temple, wherever they can find place. And it is not moved anywhere, it just stays there. So these, you can see those old horses that are present here, it is there for ages. It has been more than 100 or 200 years, they are still there. So for the making process, the first activity is collecting, and there is a sustainable factor involved in behind. There is a reason behind this festival. Sustainable reason is they collect the silt from the water bodies to make these dolls. So it is a natural, it is a dredging process that they follow. So to maintain their water bodies of good depth and good shape, so they only collect the silts and make. That silt is called the karambe man. Karambe man means the silt. So they only make these dolls based, using those karambe man. So they collect the silt, they just stamp it. The first day's activity is only to stamp it. So they will stamp by adding adding water to reach a plastic consistency, and they will leave it overnight like this for it to settle. And the next day the activity starts, the making activity starts. It is purely done with hand only. It is not much of tools or equipments are used. So the craftsman does it only with his bare hands, and he is the person who is the potter in uh, Palavangudi. So he is about 70 years old, and he's been in this business for more than 50 years. So he has started making these dolls when he was a teenager. And the sand and the clay, now the silt has become clay, and the clay is being tapped and made into sheet. And he used cement as the cement pipe with a polythene sheet wrapped over, and he rolled it and created this, used that as a mold, and he created this part, this tubular structure, which is going to be the leg of that horse. So the first day, the base part, 4 legs are made, and this is, and to not to allow excess drying on the edges, because the next day he has to attach uh, the clay to it, and he has to extend the heights of the legs. So he has uh, closed with leaves, not to let it dry overnight. And then the next day they just roll it like a rope, roll the clay like a rope, and they just place it on the edge, and they just tap it with their hands, and they just grow the heights. And the second day, full height of the legs are achieved, and that's the activity for the second day. From third day, he just does the making only in the indoors. He doesn't do it in the outdoor, because they don't uh, want the doll to be exposed to sunlight and excess drying due to sun's heat. So they just do it indoor. The measurement what they follow is not by any standards. So what they claim is like, they only do a visual measurement. They don't use any measuring tapes or any standards or units to measure. So like you can see in the image, the distance between the leg is kept with a broomstick stick. So he just broke a broomstick, and he just broke it to a certain length, and he just used that as a proportionating factor, and he just kept the legs apart. And after placing the 4 legs in place, he starts building the bottom part of the body again, just by connecting them with rope. He just did a rope kind of structure with the clay, and he just placed it, and he just tapped it and made it into a surface. And slowly, layer by layer, he builds the sides, and the third day would end here. So till the chest level, you would have done it and finished it in the third day. Fourth day, the top part starts, and till the neck would be the end of the fourth day. And again, wherever they have to have this kind of edge, which they have to start making again, they will leave it with the leaves covered on them, so that it doesn't. This is from a particular plant which is called ericum chedi. That's what he said. And that leaf will retain dampness, so that he has kept it on the edges, so that it doesn't get over dry because if it gets dry, it can't stick. The next day when you add more clay, it won't stick. And on the last day, he just proceeded with making the head and the mouth, the tail, ears, crown. We will also discuss about mandatory elements that is going to be present on the statue. So thus the whole statue is made and it is left to dry in indoors for more than 1 week, 7 days or 8 days, like that. The better it dries is good for the integrity of the statue. And then the last stage is baking. So for baking, they just cover they make the statue lie flat on ground and they cover it with broken pots, firewood. Firewoods are basically that hard dried casurina posts and some other firewoods, and it is covered with hay, and they make a paste out of mud and they completely seal it, cover it, and make few holes for the smoke to come out, and then they burn it from inside. The hay that is inside the plaster would burn and it will bake the doll overnight, and at last they would paint and finish the doll. So this is the overall making process. So the day 1 will be preparation of the clay, day 2 will be the basic of the 4 legs, and day 3 will be till the chest height of the doll, day 4 will be till the neck height, day 5 they will make the head and finish it, and sun drying for between 6 to 12 days. So maximum days it is better. And baking, sun drying is it's not actually sun drying, it is not in the sun, but it is in the indoors natural drying. And baking will be in the 13th day, and 14th day will be finishing and painting. So these are the various heights that are observed in one particular temple, that is Ermipatti temple. So the height of the dolls vary from 10 inches to 6.5 feet. So these are the various heights, and these are the various heights that are available in the Suraikudi temple. So 9 inches is the smallest doll, and 10 feet is the tallest doll, and 4 feet 6 inches doll is the huge numbers. So whatever we saw in the previous slides that has been mass produced are all of this size. So 4 feet 6 inches is the regular doll, which is mass produced or usually being offered to the temple. These are offered at rare cases. 10 feet height dolls are offered at very rare cases. And these are the 2 sizes that are available in Pattamangalam temple. Pattamangalam temple, most of the horses are of huge size, and they can be categorized around 7 feet 3 inches as one category and 8 feet 3 inches as another category. And again, it is not exactly all the dolls that are matching to this height will be approximately matching to this height. They won't be exactly 8 feet 3 inches. They'll be 8 feet 2 inch, 8 feet 1 inch, 8 feet, because they are not measured with any proper dimensions. It is just manually made. The average doll, that is the 4 feet 6 inches doll, would be of this proportion. So the height would be 4 feet 6 inches. The length would be 2 feet 4, and the height of the back would be 2 feet 9 inches. So when observed the details of the statue, of the doll, these elements are observed to be mandate. So these are all the dolls that are present in all the 3 temples. So that E5 means it's Ermapatti, S means it's Surakudi, P means it's Pattamangalam. And the mandate elements are the rein, the mane, the crown, the ears, and eyes. Eyes have to be big and blocky, and the mouth is always open in all the horses. And in some horses, the tongue is extended out. So they give an emphasis on the tongue extending out, and the mouth is always open. So these are all the mandate elements. For even the smallest horse, these are the mandate element. S3 is the smallest horse. This is only 9 inch height tall doll, but still it had a rein, it had the mane, it had the crown, it had ears, and it had blocky eyes, and the mouth was open. And this was the S1 was the biggest of the dolls. And few dolls also had a garland on the neck, around the neck, so that will define the end of the neck. So garland can actually be considered as an articulating factor, or sometimes it is to conceal the to give a seamless presentation, because they make the head separately and attach it later. So in some technique they also do that. They don't actually make as a growth pattern along with the body. They just make the body separately, head separately, and then later attach it. So if they are making such an attachment, then they have to conceal that attachment with garland kind of a treatment. So these are the extra elements. The garment is an extra element. When considering the body, the saddle is a mandatory element. In few of these statues, the saddle is actually made as a objective element, but in many dolls, it has been just painted as a formality. It has not been made as an integral part of the doll. When considered for proportions, and all the three dolls of all the three, when considered for proportion, it doesn't change much. So the lines all overlapped with only slightly differing factors you could see. But when the dolls are small, their backs are high. So only the smaller dolls are having high back lift. Otherwise, the dolls are almost matching in proportion. This is the proportion of dolls from 9-inch ones to 10 feet ones. So it's all slightly matching. This one is the 9-inch one, that is slightly having a higher head lift. These are the average sized dolls, and now the colors you can see it is like slightly they just done with different kind of styles. So these are during a different period, these are during a different period, these are during a different period, and we could also see there is no one particular style that is being followed in coloring them, or one particular pattern that is followed in coloring them, because artisan has derived inspiration from some cutleries or plates or porcelain objects which are very common in Chettinad areas. That could have these kind of designs, because they have imported cutleries from Singapore, Malaysia, East Asia. So they would have got inspiration from that. So the designs artists have used designs which are momentary, and which are like instantaneous inspirations from whatever they saw at that point of time. So there is no regular pattern or anything, or no set of guidelines or rules to finish them. These are the colors of the horse dolls present in Surakudi. In Surakudi, the majority of the dolls are of this size, this 4 feet 6'1" dolls. In them, the painting was also just formality. They did not spend much of time or detailing in the painting of the surfaces. So they have just made the doll, and the painting was just normal. So it was just as a formality to paint or design something like that. So the bigger dolls were taken more care in painting, in articulating them. These are the Battamangalam dolls. Battamangalam dolls are comparatively highly articulated because they have followed many detailing to it, and it resembles a lot of details from temples. So Battamangalam also have one of the Nagaratar temple, so which is highly decorated and articulated architecture. So maybe the artisans would have been inspired from that. And only the Battamangalam horses are very highly articulated and highly detailed. So the detail of the teeth, detail of the tongue, detail of the rein, detail of the mane, detail of the crown, everything is exquisite in Battamangalam. And the saddle back also is designed. So they have made the saddle, and they have articulated the surface of the saddle also with painting. So the painting, the artists have spent more time in doing the design on the surface with paints. So these are the most articulated ones compared to all the other two temples. after observing these dolls, so I had a feeling that though we categorize them as folk art or rural art, something. So, but my strong feeling was to compare it with the abstract modern art of the international works. So I studied to understand what are the characteristics of modern art. So when when studied and when observed, these are the elements that have been listed as characteristics of the modern art. So the art has to be objective, to follow something objectivity, and it has to be of blocky forms, it has to have prominent lines, it has to have contrasting colors, it has to have movement, it has to emphasize movement, it has to have some kind of a blankness in it, it has to have less elements in the means that only elements that are enough to describe what it is, or enough to explain what it is, and technical construction of the form. So all these were present in this any of these forms. Let's take this as the case form to observe how it is related. Objectivity. So this is clearly objective that this is a horse form, but if it's an abstraction, it is not exactly a horse form, but still it is an abstraction. So it is objectively, it is clear, it is expressing the value that it is horse, and it is blocky. Yes, there is also a structural factor that goes for its blocky form, because all the artisans wants to make the legs strong and sturdy, and that's why it is blocky, so that to withstand the weight of the upper body, so they are blocky. So yes, it satisfies that category also. And yes, it has prominent lines, it does not have a much of undulated surface or undulated outline to the form. It has a very clean outline, very prominent line, may it be ice, may it be main, may it be rains. So it is very prominent and clear. And they have used contrasting colors in expressing the uh, artistic quality of the surface. And they have all these dolls emphasize movement, because the chest is always bulged. For any doll, the chest is always bulged, emphasizing that it is ready to go. So that is emphasizing movement. And blankness, yes, they only detail out the head and neck part and the saddle part, rest of the part is all blank. Even in the Patamangalam doll, where we see heavy articulation only on the head part and the saddle part, and just to continue to slightly merge it with the other part, they have extended the design on the front leg. Otherwise, major part of the form is left blank. Technical construction, yes, so structurally they have made it stable, and though they did not follow any kind of a mathematical calculations or any sort of dimensional properties, any proportionating systems, yet they are good in technical construction, because they are been standing over years. Like there are 200 300 year old statues. This one, which is the oldest one in the Patamangalam, it's more than 200 years. So that's it. That is the end of our discussion. So that's all what I had to share with you.
Thank you very much, sir. We will take a few questions now. We already have a few in our chat box. So one of the questions is, are the dolls made on request or order?
Yes, they are made on request on order, but you can't offer them at the time you are willing to offer. If it is for your personal use, yes, they can make for order, but not for offering to the temple. That you have to be making only during the festive times. And the festive times are only during the months of March, April, and May. So usually, so they say it is Panguni, Chittirai, and so these are the festive months: Panguni, Chittirai, Vaigasi. So that is like March, April, and May. And most of the temples do it once in 2 years. The festival is conducted in once in 2 years. Only in Surakudi it is done every year.
Right. That also answers one of the other questions, which was during what time of the year these festivals are conducted. So that
Yeah,
also
these are,
answers.
yes, during the summer seasons, yes, after the monsoons.
Right. Another question is, sir, you had mentioned about the mass production of dolls, nearly hundreds of dolls.
Yes.
So the question is, what happens to the mass produced dolls that are not presented as part of the vote?
No, it's all presented. The mass production is all, it's all based on order only. So it means that 100 and odd people have ordered for the doll to be made and offered to God for that particular festive season. So everything is being paid. So each and every doll is paid by somebody. Only on an individual's order it is made. The temple does not make those dolls.
Right.
Only individuals make the dolls. The temple never spends on making these dolls. Only people spend on making these dolls.
We have another question. Do they also make mini versions on request?
Yes, yes, they make. That's what 9-inch dolls are available. So those are. See, it depends on uh, how people want to. It also depends on their financial status also. Some people are very financially not that good, so they can present smaller dolls, smaller versions, 10-inch or 9-inch versions. Some are very good, financially sound, and they could do something big, so they would present the biggest dolls, the 10 feet ones or 8 feet ones. Sometimes it is presented based on the proportion. Suppose they have made a pledge that they are going to make a doll with an expense of so much percentage from their profit. So then that would make the size. So if the profit percentage is smaller, then it would be a smaller doll. If the profit percentage is bigger, then that would be a bigger doll. So that also happens. Basically, it depends on how much is the spending capacity of the person. Yes, miniature dolls are available, and we can get it done for personal use or for home decors also. Yes.
Our next question is, do they look similar to the Bankura horses?
No, Bankura horses they will have a very tall neck. They will have a very tall neck. One particular horse is this one. This one is slightly similar because the neck is tall. But Bankura horses will have a very tall neck, and it will have a very short body, and it will have the distance between the legs in the lengthwise also will be the length of the body also will be short. So Bankura horses will be completely different.
So are all the dolls kept within or around the temple precincts year after year? Are they
Yes,
ever disposed?
they are not disposed. They just disintegrate by themselves after many years. So it's just left on the temple premises, around the temple premises. That's all. In Surakudi, I was not able to take the images because I was not allowed to take images in the temple premises. So otherwise, I could have just taken images. It is like loaded. The whole premises it is a very vast land. It's a big temple complex. It does not involve only one single deity. It involves multiple deities, and it's a vast place. And the whole place is filled with army of these dolls. So it's stacked one over the other. It is just lined, jam packed. So it never goes anywhere. They just get dumped there only because it is property of the temple. So it is not supposed to go anywhere.
Thank you, sir. If there are any more questions, you can either put it up in the chat box or unmute yourself. There are
So
some.
the potters families are training their children, is it? Subsequent generations are making these horses?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So this is an art which has been transferred through generations. If anybody wants to learn also, they teach them, but usually potters only do this. Only during the festive season they have the job of doing this dolls. Otherwise they make pottery, or they also do civil works. They work as masons also.
No, my question is, succeeding generations taking it up?
Yes. Succeeding generations will take it up. Yes.
Oh, that's good.
And in some villages they take it as a lineage. They just do that.
Are these horses found in all villages of Tamil Nadu?
Not all villages. There are particular villages where the god is basically INR or Karupu. Even if the god is INR, some villages do not have these kind of rituals. They have many other rituals. They don't worship or make these kind of terracotta dolls as an offering. They do other offerings. These are, to my understanding, when I observed, it is found only in drought areas. So wherever there is an importance of storing water, where there is an importance of maintaining the water body, where the dredging is required on a periodical basis, those kind of villages, they have these kind of rituals. So it is actually connected to that only, to maintaining the water body only. Usually in Sivagangai, it is there are many villages follow this ritual. Sivagangai, Ramanathapuram, and outskirts of Madurai, Tirunelveli, these areas.
So do we have an idea of when this practice started?
They don't know. They are saying from long back. So they don't know what's the start date or end date, because the village itself, the villagers don't know when the village started. So how will they know that these practices started? It's been there for ages.
Right.
There is no exact. That's what the story is all just by word of mouth. It is not documented, or it is not been written anywhere or kept. It's just a knowledge that has been transferred from generations.
Right.
And maybe that Kumbham story can be one story which has been followed in the many villages also. It need not be the actual story. It might be a story just to, always in Hindu religion, we add a mythological factor to a good practice. So they might have added that story also. We do not know.
Right. There is one more question. Do the horses have riders in some versions?
No, they don't. They don't, because these are supposed to be ridden by the gods. So it is for the god. So only the INR or Kumaraswamy has to ride it. So they will only give the horse, so that the belief is that he rides on them. And they make a statue with the god itself on the horse, but that is made by the temple. It's not made by individual. That is commissioned by the temple, and they make it. There will be only one such statue. They won't make multiple statues of that kind.
Are there any more questions? Yes.
Just would like to thank him for the exhaustive information. Thank you so much. We are always fascinated whenever we drive past most of the villages. We see these imposing INR dolls and these horses. They are always extremely fascinating. And it was very nice to get so much information about them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
There is one other question. Are there any legends relating to the offering of such horses?
So the legend is the gods. So they are the gods they call them as Ellai Sami, or the people who safeguard Ur Kaval Deyam, the people who safeguard the village. So for safeguarding, they might need weapon. They might need some vehicle to ride on. So for that only they are giving horse, and they also offer sickle sword to use that as a weapon to protect them. So that is the legend.
There are some wonderful comments in the chat box regarding your talk. We would be happy to send you a copy of each one of them.
Yeah.
If there are any more questions, we can take one or two more.
I just want to say that in addition to the wealth of knowledge that you've shared with us, I think the drawings are absolutely fascinating. What an amazing documentation. I mean, you've got, when we talked of, plan elevation section, I never imagined that I'm going to see that of so many horses one day. It's an amazing documentation, and the way you've applied color to some to convey what the decorative elements are, that's another amazing aspect. And that you've compared it with, the contemporary art, that's to take it to the art perspective, in addition to the ecological, the mythological, and the different layers that these horses, convey to us. And it's an amazing tradition. And it's so heartening to hear that, the families are keeping the tradition alive, and that today's generation is carrying this forward. It's absolutely heartening to hear. And we look forward to your documentation of some of the other areas that you said are not covered in this, and that only Chettinad has been covered. So we do look forward to that. Thank you so much.
I came in a few minutes late. What actually set you off to study this? Maybe you mentioned it, I don't know.
No, ma'am. It's just from my childhood, I am fascinated with horses, and I am fascinated with these dolls. With my father, I went to a place called Annavasal. You might have heard Annavasal for its cave painting, Chittanavasal. In that area, there is a temple called Sangali Karuppu temple. So there the deity is Kumaraswamy, and his name is Sangali Karuppu. He robes. He just wears chains. Chains. So in that temple, there are horses which are of 7 feet, 8 feet tall, and they are like more than 200 years old. So I was fascinated. I saw that when I was, about 6 years, 7 years old. So from that time on, I was very fascinated in these deities, in studying them, understanding them, listening about stories about them and all that. So that is what made me do this research.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. That was very interesting and very informative.
Thank you.
Best wishes to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Are there any more questions? Balamurali, you said that a friend of yours who's also studying this subject may be here. Does he have anything to share?
I don't think he is here, ma'am.
Okay.
I think he couldn't join.
Yeah, can we have the vote of thanks, please?
Yes, for those who are asking the contact number of the speaker, please write to us at intachchennai@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to get you in touch with the speaker. It is my pleasure and honor to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of INTACH Chennai chapter. I would like to start off by saying this was one of the most fascinating talks we've had in the recent past, and such short and precise information that was so easy to understand and so relatable. I have also heard that INR is the Tamil deity dating pre-Vedic times. He is usually enshrined with 21 sub-deities, including Kumaraswamy. His origins are shrouded in mystery and many historical facts buried in tradition. But he could very well be of, very well could have been of flesh and blood, the chieftain of the mythically transferred realm of the divine. But it is generally believed that he evolved from the Dravidian Shakti cult with the advent of mainstream Hinduism from the north and the resultant shift of the animist goddess worship to the worship of male gods. Over time, the process of merging indigenous beliefs into organized Vedic religion transformed Ayanar into the Harihara Putra, or the son of Vishnu, Hari, in his female form as Mohini, and Shiva, or Hara. This served to unite rival Shaivite and Vaishnavite groups, while the nature of his alleged conception added legitimacy to his admission into the pantheon. Although polygamous to begin with and depicted with two consorts, he began to be identified with a more popular 11th century celibate deity, Ayyappan, with an extended scope of influence beyond the boundaries of the village. As the principal guardian deity, Ayanar is charged beyond the tasks of granting boons and ensuring bountiful rain and harvests with the protection of the village from all calamities, as he is said to fiercely fulfill the duty by patrolling his fiefdom each night, sword in hand, astride his shining white stallion. Traditional votive offerings in Ayanar temples, therefore, are brightly painted terracotta horses, commissioned by grateful devotees and crafted by attendant bearers in sacred ceremonies that involve processions from the priest's house to clay pits in temple premises. We saw that a mixture of smooth and grainy clay, along with sand, straw, and paddy husk, is kneaded and shaped in specified order before being fired in resident kilns. They are then consecrated to rituals known as Kudirai Eduppu, or the horse dedication, that are accompanied by trances and in some instances, animal sacrifice as well. Thank you for your extended talk, Mr. Balamurali. It has been a pleasure and an honor to host you from INTACH. Thank you.
Thank you so much.